I'm Gary Grant, and I became a Christian in 1991, exactly 10 years after we started our family business. We're in the toy trade. We own toy shops called The Entertainer. We have 160 stores in the UK and about 900 toy departments with inside Tesco's. So it was back in 1991 where really God invaded my life. I wasn't looking for him. I didn't felt I needed him, but he just turned up at a men's breakfast, and as they say, the rest is history. But then shortly after I became a Christian, 6 weeks in, I really felt that carrying on being a Christian and running a business, they just weren't compatible. That maybe I should sort of jack it all in and go off and be a missionary or do something different. And it really was the challenge of a local Christian accountant that I had lunch with when I was juggling and trying to figure all this out. That he said, Gary, maybe the way you're running your business and being a Christian aren't compatible. You need to tidy up your act. So, in a way, that was the sort of the nudge that I needed to figure out how do I how am I salt and light in a retail environment, a business which the family own, employing now 30 years on nearly 2,000 people. And I guess the first major challenge was in the area of honesty. We need to be more honest with the way that we're running our business, and honesty comes in many different guises as to how we were buying our stock, how we're paying for our stock, and so on. Secondly, was around the products that we stocked. And that challenge was largely driven by a lady who came into our toy shop in October before I became a Christian, so October 1990, challenged me about the Halloween stock that I was selling, explained that I was encouraging children to play with darkness, and that if I stopped selling Halloween, my business would be replaced. The lost business on Halloween would be replaced in other ways by the Lord. And as a retail owner, a non-Christian, I just laughed at her. I thought she was a fruitcake. But I would encourage Christians in a relevant way to speak out and to take a little bit of a risk. But I say relevant way. We don't want to be known as bizarre people because we're normal people that know Jesus, and therefore we've got to be. But anyway, I thought this lady was really brave. So 6 months later, May of 1991, I have this experience, and then I have my lunch with the local accountant, and I thought, okay, so I've got to sort of be comfortable with the products that I'm selling. So where does Halloween fit into this? Well, it doesn't. So we didn't stock Halloween, and October of 1991, we had the most amazing month without Halloween. Biggest increase in turnover our three shops had in the history of the business. So I guess the passage, really short passage in 1 Samuel 2:30, those honor me, I will honor. I've seen work, and I've seen that work over and over and over again. Not because I've wanted situation to work for me, not because I've wanted anything back. My motive was just to do the right thing, and you can rely on God to honor those that honor Him. It's simple as that. If you do that because you want financial gain or success, I don't think the little passage works at all. But that's not been the case. And then a few years later, in 1995, the working on Sunday laws, the trading on Sunday laws changed, and I thought, oh dear, what are we going to do about working on a Sunday? And in the end, we decided that we wouldn't work on a Sunday, therefore our shops would be closed. But it wasn't a case of closing shops that were open; they were never open. So we just didn't start opening on a Sunday. And there were a few tricky years where landlords insisted that new tenants should open on a Sunday. You couldn't retrospectively force people to do it, and we lost a few shops. But in the end, our competitors towards the late 90s, they started to fail, and then the last large competitor that failed was in the financial crisis of 2008 when Woolworths closed, and that gave a huge number of opportunities in high streets up and down the country. And that's where our business really started to explode. We went from 42 shops in 2008 to 160 shops just 10 years later. Then we survived COVID, and it was a case of survival. COVID was a really, really tough period for most companies that employed people, particularly when they were closed down. on a number of occasions, but that first closure was 17 weeks, no income, still paying the staff, still paying the landlords, and paying people for the stock that we had owed them for that we'd bought. And so we arrive at now. And people have said, well, why now? Why would you choose now to hand your business over to the employees in this way? And I want to finish well. I want to know that my legacy could live on beyond me, and leaving the business intact and passing the business over to the management, to the staff through an employee ownership trust means that there will of course be change. The new management and the new owners will change the business, but they'll change it less than say a trade buyer or a venture capitalist coming in and wanted to completely radically change it. And I wanted to honour the staff. Over 400 have worked for the company for more than 10 years and 68 for more than 20 years. I wanted to honour the staff who've helped me make the entertainment of the business that it is today. From my experience, um, I would encourage other Christians to be bold, because I guess the one thing that holds us back could be worrying about what other people think about us. And therefore, when we stand firm for the gospel, you could say, well, people might think I'm a fruitcake, or people might think I'm outrageously a radical Christian. Well, I don't think I'm actually any of those things at all. I just I just believe in Jesus. I want my faith to be living for 7 days a week, not just for Sundays when it's possible to go to church. So I would be praying for other Christians to be bold, an opportunity in a controlled and non-confrontational way to be able to speak about their faith, to look at opportunities to be able to get alongside staff, particularly if you're an employer. Um, my staff would be fully aware that if something came to light within their life, maybe they've had a tragedy or they've had a diagnosis that wasn't health diagnosis, that was going to be a challenge, they would realize that if Gary found out, and in lots of cases the staff would be really happy for Gary to be told, he's most likely to ring me and pray for me. So that has been a privilege, being able to pick up the phone to encourage our members of staff. And with 2,000 people, there's always a few people that are having life challenges. So to be able to get alongside them and to encourage them in a way which maybe doesn't happen today, maybe 50 years ago, it would have been commonplace for somebody to say to them, can I pray for you? But it doesn't feel like it's the norm response today. And then lastly, what would I say to Christians? I said, well, live a rig life, RIG, rig. And how this came about, I was in Jersey, and the local town centre clergy said to me, would I go and speak at their state's parliament prayer breakfast? So it's a bit like their parliament. They run the island, they make all the rules, and I said, yeah, no problems. I'll happily do that. And then immediately I just sort of dived in with both feet and said yes. I thought, oh, what are you going to tell them? You're not a preacher. What are you going to say to them? And there I was looking at the boats in the harbour in St Helier, and I felt God say to me, Gary, just tell them about rig. And I said, but Lord, I don't know anything about boats. I know nothing about sails. I've never sailed a boat. What are you talking about? You've got the wrong guy. And I felt God said to me, no, 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 it's not anything to do with boats, Gary. It's God, tell them to guard their reputation. Reputation is everything. It takes years to get a good reputation, and reputations can be lost in minutes with a bad decision or something that you do that literally you get, in effect, get caught out, and that reputation is completely lost. And then I tell them that it's really important to do everything you do with integrity. so that people can see that you're living out the way that you're talking, that you're walking the talk. And then G, tell them to be absolutely outrageously generous. Whatever they're doing, whatever we do as Christians, if we are outrageously generous, people will ask why. And then when people ask you, you've got the fantastic opportunity of walking into that situation and saying, well, actually, did you know the Bible tells me look after the orphans, look after the widows, look after the homeless, do all of those things, but you've got asked the question. So you've got the right to be able to respond. So live a rig life, reputation, integrity, and generosity.
For more great content, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.